Hello, this is our literary theory verbal essay on where are you going, where have you been. The first thesis is looked through the psychoanalytical lens. The thesis sentence is, the unconscious of the character Connie in Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been can be analyzed through Freud's idea of the id, ego, and superego, Piaget's developmental psychology, and Kohlberg's stages of moral development. Topic sentence number 1. Throughout the story, we see Connie make many significant decisions based on her inner id, ego, and superego. Textual evidence. The first quote is, she was 15 and she had a quick, nervous, giggling habit of craning her neck to glance into mirrors or checking other people's faces to make sure her own was all right. Connie's id is seen through her impulsive need to keep up her appearance. She subconsciously checks herself out in mirrors and watches other people to make sure they are approving of her. This tells us that she is self-centered and relies heavily on the opinions of others. Second quote, everything about her had two sides to it, one for home and one for anywhere that was not home. Connie's ego is what makes her act on her obsession with being what other people want her to be. When she is home, she dresses and acts accordingly to what her mother approves of. When she is out, she is more rebellious to fit in with her peers. Third quote, I just hate to leave her like that. Connie's superego plays the important role of providing her moral beliefs and standards. She clearly knows when she is doing something rebellious and shows remorse for putting other people in uncomfortable or undesirable situations. Topic sentence number 2. Connie's character and behavior can also be interpreted through Piaget's developmental psychology, as it provides insight on the stages of learning and acquired knowledge at the age of 15. Textual evidence. First quote is, if I call the police, they'll get you, they'll arrest you. Connie shows the development of her hypothetical thinking by saying that if she called the police, they would arrest Arnold. Second quote, she had run inside, but that wasn't good enough. It wasn't going to help her. Through Connie's attempt to find safety, her ability to think and reason abstractly is revealed. She knows that even though she has gone further into her house, she still isn't safe because Arnold could just as easily walk through the door and get her. Third quote, but my father's coming back, he's coming to get me, I had to wash my hair first. Connie tries to lie to Arnold and make up a situation in which her father was going to come back to pick her up once she was done washing her hair. Her ability to lie in order to scare off Arnold shows her strategy and planning abilities. Third topic sentence. Kohlberg's stages of moral development explain what is most important to Connie based on her age and place in life. Textual evidence. The first quote is, what's all that stuff painted on your car? Connie's desire and need for social reciprocity is seen when she prompts Arnold with questions to keep their conversation going, even though she knows he is creepy and shouldn't be at her house. Second quote, if I call the police, they'll arrest you. In the beginning of the story, we see how Connie feels remorse and moral obligation towards people, and then later in the story she threatens to have Arnold arrested. From these situations, it is clear that Connie knows the difference between morally unjust actions and lawfully unjust actions. Third quote, June went places with girlfriends of hers, girls who were just as plain and steady as she, and so when Connie wanted to do that, her mother had no objections. Connie is aware that because of her older sister's privileges, she also gets privileges. She acknowledges the importance of utilitarian rules in this situation. The second thesis sentence is through the lens of gender. Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been plays heavily on stereotypes of women using symbolism, allegory, and a historical setting. First topic sentence. Most, if not all, of Connie's struggles are in one way or another a problem she simply has to face as a female in a society about gender roles, indicating that the short story is set during a time when men mostly had more privileges than women. Textual evidence. First quote is, be nice to me, be sweet like you can, because what else is there for a girl like you but to be sweet and pretty and given, and get away before her people come back. The setting of the story is clear from Arnold telling Connie she has no choice but to submit to him. This is a reference to the historical role of women who have less rights and privileges than men, being viewed as people who only live to serve men and children. Third quote, they rode off with the girl's father, sleepy and pleased, and Connie couldn't help but look back at the darkened shopping plaza with its big empty parking lot and its signs that were faded and ghostly now, and over at the drive-in restaurant where cars were still circling tirelessly. She couldn't hear the music at this distance. The darkened plaza and ghostly signs are symbolic of Connie finding out that reality is cold and hard, in contrast to Connie trying to act like a mature woman. Her fear settles in at the end of the story when she learns of the problems women face in society. Second topic sentence. Throughout the short story, there are symbols that represent how society stereotypes females. Textual evidence. First quote is, "They sat at the counter and crossed their legs at the ankles, their thin shoulders rigid with excitement, and listened to the music that made everything so good. The music was always in the background like music at a church service. It was something to depend upon." This is a symbol of Connie's happiness while being away from home, where she has no power being a female. Second quote is, "The place where you came from ain't there anymore, and where you had in mind to go is canceled out. This place you are now, inside your daddy's house, is nothing but a cardboard box I can knock down any time." As a woman, Connie is never truly safe from a man who is controlling. This is a stereotype of women having significantly less power than a man, since she has no way to escape Arnold's abuse. Third quote, "She felt her pounding heart, her hand seemed to enclose it. She thought for the first time in her life that it was nothing that was hers, that belonged to her, but just a pounding, living thing inside this body that wasn't really hers either." This is a stereotype of women being seen as subservient and dependent on men. Third topic sentence. "Where are you going, where have you been" is an allegory to blind love, which turns out to be nothing more than deceit. Textual evidence. The first quote is, "Now come out through the kitchen to me, honey, and let's see a smile. Try it. You're a brave, sweet little girl, and now they're eating corn and hot dogs cooked to bursting over an outdoor fire, and they don't know one thing about you and never did, and honey, you're better than them because not a one of them would have done this for you." Part of the story is based on Death and the Maiden folktales. The allegory is that Arnold is portrayed as a figure of death while Connie is the helpless victim. Second quote, "My sweet little blue-eyed girl," he said in a half-sung sigh that had nothing to do with her brown eyes, but was taken up just the same by the vast sunlit reaches of the land behind him and on all sides of him. So much land that Connie had never seen before and did not recognize, except to know that she was going to it. Arnold is showing more of his deceitful personality as he does not actually find Connie beautiful. He is merely showing that he has successfully lured Connie in like the devil he is supposed to represent. Third quote, "He's a dope, right? I'm the boy for you, and like I said, you come out here nice like a lady and give me your hand and nobody else gets hurt. I mean, your nice old bald-headed daddy and your mommy and your sister in her high heels because listen, why bring them in this?" Arnold is trying to seduce Connie, being the deceptive devil in Death and the Maiden. The third thesis is through the cultural lens. Gender privilege is largely represented in the dynamic between the protagonist and antagonist in the story, Connie and Arnold. It is carried through the whole story and is used to reveal what is important within the character's culture. First topic sentence is, "Through Connie's reasoning and behavior, her perspective on the equality of gender is revealed to the reader." Textual evidence. The first quote is, "June did this, June did that. She saved money and helped clean the house and cooked, and Connie couldn't do a thing. Her mind was all filled with trashy daydreams." Connie's sister June abides by the typical gender stereotype of being a woman who cooks and cleans, but Connie does not, as she doesn't see the importance of gender roles. Second quote, "She couldn't decide if she liked him or if he was just a jerk." When Arnold shows up at Connie's house, rather than being afraid of him or seeing him as a threat, she tries to flirt with him and tries to figure out if he is interested in her. Third quote, "Her face gleaming with a joy that had nothing to do with Eddie." Connie's happiness does not come from the attention of boys because she does not idolize them. Instead, she finds happiness in her independence and the opinions of all people, male and female alike. Second topic sentence. From context, it is obvious that Arnold's character feels superior to women, which leads him to believe that he can manipulate Connie and get what he wants without using force. Textual evidence. The first quote is, "Now what you're going to do is this. You're going to come out that door." Arnold feels that he holds a lot of power over Connie as he tries to control and command her to do what he wants. Second quote, "You'll give in to me and you'll love me." Confidence is what drives Arnold to be so forward with Connie. He sees her more as an object that he can take rather than a person who might have negative opinions about him. Third quote, "I promise you this, I ain't coming in that house after you." Arnold has so much confidence that he can get Connie by simply manipulating her because he does not respect or even acknowledge the power of women. Third topic sentence. Both of the main characters, Connie and Arnold, defy gender norms and have their own exaggerated perspectives of the power that they hold as a male or female, which is a strong opposition to how the other characters in the story interact with the gender norms defined by their culture. Textual evidence, the first quote is, Connie had to hear her praised all the time by her mother and her mother's sisters. In Connie's family's culture, her sister June is favored and praised because she is not rebellious and does not prioritize her independence over being helpful and respectful. Second quote, their father was away at work most of the time, and when he came home he wanted supper and he read the newspaper at supper, and after supper he went to bed. The male figure in the family, Connie's father, relies on Connie's mother to fall into the typical gender stereotype of cooking and cleaning while he goes to work and makes money to support them. He clearly does not do anything to help her at home as he barely even speaks to her. Third quote, her mother went scuffling around the house in old bedroom slippers and complained over the telephone to one sister about the other, then the other called up and the two of them complained about the third one. Connie's mother follows the stereotype without question and has a simple, uninteresting stay-at-home life while her husband gets to go to work.